Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and keep watching more details. Taylor Sheridan's next Yellowstone prequel needs to answer 1923's biggest Teonna Rainwater question. Taylor Sheridan's next Yellowstone prequel needs to answer the biggest outstanding question about Teonna Rainwater, Amina Neves, after 1923. The Yellowstone executive producer has teased a follow-up to 1923 Season 2 called 1944, which would pick up amid the events of World War II. 1944 could include key members of the Dutton family tree, like Spencer Dutton, Brandon Sklenar, and maybe even, as a ghost, Alex Dutton, Julia Schlatfer. That said, 1944 can also include Teonna, who had a bittersweet ending in 1923 Season 2's finale, walking free of the crimes she committed against her abusers. Starting at an assimilation school run by the U.S. government and the Catholic Church, Teonna Rainwater overcomes horrible things in 1923. Teonna is abused by two nuns, Sister Mary, Jennifer L., and Sister Alice, Carrie O'Malley, and she kills them before escaping. While Teonna will be able to start a new life after she is relieved from her former burdens, her freedom costs her everything, as she said to Two Spears, Dudgy Hall, at the end of 1923 Season 2. Still, despite all we have witnessed of her life, there's one unresolved aspect of Teonna Rainwater's 1923 story. Despite 1923 ending, we don't know how Teonna Rainwater connects to the Dutton family. It's an asset to 1923 that Teonna had a story independent of the Duttons, painting a more complete picture of life in the American West amid the Prohibition era. Unfortunately, 1923's worst story is based on real life, and Teonna's escape from her boarding school experience is one of 1923's strongest elements. Still, the Dutton family is the soul of the Yellowstone franchise, and there are clues that Teonna's story plays a big role in the modern-day saga, led by Kevin Costner as John Dutton III. John Dutton's original adversary, the first person who tried to take his land in Yellowstone, was Thomas Rainwater, Gil Birmingham. Teonna and Thomas Rainwater share a surname, suggesting tribal chairman Rainwater may be the descendant of Neves' 1923 character. Still, when Teonna's story ends in 1923 Season 2, all we know is that she is potentially heading to California, where Two Spears says there's fruit on the trees and game on the hills. Therefore, all we can assume is that Teonna headed west. Many assumed Teonna's story would eventually connect to the Duttons in 1923, but that didn't pan out. 1944 is the next opportunity to explain Teonna Rainwater's link to the Dutton family, and its creators need to take advantage of the opportunity in some way to entice fans to continue to subscribe to Teonna's journey, especially if she's included in 1944's cast. Some Yellowstone fans began losing interest in the Native American tale due to not understanding its larger role in Yellowstone's complete timeline, despite its inspirational and subversive qualities. 1944 can bring those fans back in, connecting Teonna's story to the Dutton family. Still, 1944 needs to continue Teonna's story, even if her story isn't directly connected. Taylor Sheridan, Yellowstone's screenwriter, is bound to explain how Teonna connects to Yellowstone eventually, and there are a few ways he could do that in 1944. At the end of 1923 Season 2, when Two Spears tells Teonna to go to California, he says there are more Mexicans and Indians than whites. We know from Yellowstone Season 1 that Thomas believed that he was Mexican until he was 18, when his adoption records were unsealed. Therefore, Teonna going to a place where her descendants could pass as Mexican in 1944 would embolden her potential connection to Thomas. If 1944 shows Rainwater in California, then Yellowstone fans could say with more confidence that Teonna was Thomas Rainwater's grandmother or great-grandmother, confirming the most popular theory. Resuming 20 years after 1923, Teonna's 1944 story could explain where she settled, how she was faring, and whether she had a child. If Teonna became pregnant with Pete Plenty Clouds, Jeremy Ghana, 1944 could reveal that Teonna had a 20-year-old child, continuing her lineage. Still, 1944 may be too premature to reveal Thomas' link to Teonna, since he was born decades later, with Sheridan potentially saving the connection for his future 1960s is a master of building out the modern American myth. With Yellowstone, 1883, and 1923, he's painted a sprawling, violent, and often heartbreaking mural of survival, land, and legacy in the American West. Each installment deepens the mythology, often with brutal intimacy. But while 1923 gave us the battle-weary faces of Jacob and Cara Dutton, and the mounting tension of generational conflict, it also introduced one of the franchise's most compelling, untamed spirits, Teonna Rainwater. And now, with another Yellowstone prequel on the horizon, Sheridan has a responsibility to history, to storytelling, and to his audience to answer the burning question: what became of Teonna Rainwater? The unbreakable flame of Teonna Rainwater. In 1923, Teonna is introduced not as a side character, but as a beating heart of pain and resilience. Played with ferocity and depth by Amina Neves, Teonna's arc reveals the darkest chapters of American history, those too often buried under romanticized tales of westward expansion. A young Native American girl forced into a Catholic boarding school, Teonna's story is a brutal indictment of colonial violence, cultural erasure, and the systemic abuse Indigenous people endured under the guise of civilization. We watch her endure horrific trauma. We cheer her on when she fights back. We hold our breath as she escapes into a wilderness that offers as much danger as it does hope. And by the end of 1923's first season, Teonna is on the run, with the law, the church, and the very weight of empire all hunting her. Then the season ends. Teonna's fate is left in the balance, and as the Yellowstone universe marches forward, Sheridan must reckon with her unfinished story. Why Teonna's journey matters. Teonna Rainwater isn't just a compelling character, she's an essential bridge between the past and the present. Fans of Yellowstone know the name Rainwater well. Thomas Rainwater, the savvy and principled chief of the Broken Rock Reservation in the flagship series, fights for his people's future against Dutton landowners and a predatory system. The shared surname isn't a coincidence. There's every reason to believe Teonna is a direct ancestor of Thomas Rainwater, and yet 1923 offers no closure about her fate, whether she survives, thrives, or even makes it off the map. This is Sheridan's biggest open thread. Connecting Teonna to Thomas would tie the sprawling Yellowstone timeline together in a way that's not just narratively satisfying, but thematically crucial. The Yellowstone saga has always been about bloodlines, but not just the Duttons. It's about the legacy of stolen land, of broken treaties, and of survival in spite of it all. Teonna's survival isn't just a plot point. It's the cornerstone of an unspoken legacy. Her perseverance would ripple forward a century, shaping the strength and resolve of future generations. To ignore her now would be to leave a vital voice silenced once again. The potential of the next prequel. The next prequel, possibly set in the 1940s or 1950s, has an unprecedented opportunity. While the Duttons continue to battle outside forces threatening their way of life, Sheridan could show us how the Rainwaters were battling to reclaim theirs. Imagine this: Teonna, now older, wiser, and scared by her past, emerges in a new setting. She's helping lead her community through an era of change, when Native identity is reawakening in resistance to assimilationist policies. The boarding schools are still active, but the seeds of resistance are growing. Perhaps Teonna becomes a matriarch, a mentor, or a quiet rebel living in defiance. The series could depict her fighting for her land, her language, and her family. It could also explore how trauma echoes through generations, and how love, resilience, and culture can heal what colonization tried to destroy. More than just historical justice, this would be a bold narrative step. Yellowstone often glorifies the West through rugged white protagonists. Centering Teonna would flip that lens. Her perspective reminds us that the West wasn't empty land, it was stolen. And that, too, is part of the American legacy. A reckoning with history. Sheridan has often flirted with America's uncomfortable truths, but Teonna's story challenges him to go further. Her arc in 1923 dared to confront genocide, rape, and cultural annihilation head-on. But it can't end in a cliffhanger. Not when real families, real nations, and real bloodlines live that story. By revisiting Teonna in the next prequel, Sheridan wouldn't just be telling her story, he'd be acknowledging the countless Teonnas lost to history. Her survival could symbolize the survival of a people and the slow reclamation of identity. And let's be honest, the audience wants this. Amena Neve's performance resonated for a reason. Fans aren't just curious, they're emotionally invested. That alone makes her story one of the most crucial threads Sheridan has ever spun.